2, 1.
Ooh, welcome to the Fourth Line Podcast, part of Full Press Radio. This is May the 30th, 2022. With you today is myself, Carl, and Stevie Nick.
Hello, Carl. Good evening. We're back on the evening cast. May the 30th be with you.
And also with you.
I think I missed last week's.
That's fine. It was really early last week.
It was.
Speaking of which, speaking of Star Wars things, have you watched the Obi-Wan show yet?
I haven't. Didn't it just come out like 2 days ago?
It did, yeah.
I haven't watched it yet.
I watched half of it and then fell asleep last night, which is not indicative of the quality of the show, but is indicative of how much sleep I got on the weekend.
Well, there you go. It's on the slate for me. It's going to be the next thing. This is the best part about the playoffs kind of getting on is hockey doesn't dominate my entire evening anymore.
No, it's nice because for you, what games start at 8 o'clock now?
Yeah.
See, for me, they pretty much will still take up most of the time. The game starts at 6. It does mean I can get home, eat some dinner, clean up from dinner, and then the game is on until I'm ready to not watch it.
They could have done an afternoon game today. They could have done like a 3 p.m. game.
They could have, but the Canadian market would have been very upset with them.
They'd be upset they're missing the Carolina Hurricanes game. Like what kind of ratings do you think Sportsnet's pulling in right now?
Pretty good ratings, I would assume.
I'm watching.
There's no Jays game on today, so they don't have that to compete with or show.
Maybe.
I would say they've got pretty good ratings. But yes, that's where we're at. We have Carolina and the Rangers. Literally, puck is about to drop. Anthems are done. Goal horn has been wailed.
Did you see who was wailing it?
I did not.
It was Cam Ward.
Oh.
And he was giving her. Like, I don't even think Cam Ward worked that hard during the 2002 Stanley Cup final.
From what I recall, he didn't have to work that hard.
No, so. that was Arturs Urbe. 2006 Stanley Cup final.
Yeah. Arturs Urbe made us to a Stanley Cup final.
I think so. I'm pretty sure he was on that Carolina team that lost to Detroit.
Jeez. Good for him.
Stole a game from them too.
Yeah. Well, there you go. So we've got that happening. The other 3 series have wrapped up, and we're going to get started out west because we're hoping that in the hour that we record this show, that something happens in this hockey game so that we can have a somewhat thought of what's going to happen by the end.
Excellent. So where do you want to start? Because I know one series is close to your heart. And then one series we touted as being the must-watch TV best thing ever, and it kind of fell flat.
One of them is close to my heart. One of them is close to me geographically.
That's true.
Well, let's start with the Colorado Avalanche moving on in 6 games, beating the St. Louis Blues, heading to their first conference finals in far too long.
And it shouldn't have taken them 6 games.
No, it should not have.
That Nathan MacKinnon, he's a good hockey player.
So the game 5, right? I believe last time we were here, it was
Game 3 had just ended.
Game 3's had just ended, yeah. And so Game 5 happened, and it was both the most exciting. I think it is for sure the best goal we've seen all playoffs, without a doubt.
It was amazing. Coast to coast. And watching it at full speed the first time, I was like, did he just score through his legs?
There were so many things about that goal that were impressive. And his stick work at the net was definitely the best part of it.
Unbelievable. And how he got around the players. And that was his 3rd goal of the night, correct?
That was the hat trick go ahead goal of the game.
What a way to seal it. With like 4 minutes left?
Yeah.
Something like that.
And then to blow it.
Yeah, that's a tough one. Like, you build all that excitement and momentum with a goal like that, and then you blow it, and then you go to overtime and you blow it again.
I was genuinely concerned. That's the kind of thing that happens. And that's like, you have no way to come back from it that night. Clearly, you just lost in overtime. But that's the kind of thing where like you want to get right back at it the next day. You don't want that day off. You want to be able to prove to yourself, to everyone, that you are good enough. And what I really liked about that game 6 was they had to, right? It was not like many games in that series. It was a tight game. The Avs had a lot of chances and almost went to overtime again, right? Except for our new mutual best friend, Darren Helm.
My boy, Darren Helm, our boy now.
He was up until that point, he was still just your boy, but now he's fully our boy.
Man, that was such a Darren Helm goal too. Like just a routine play, like, what they say in junior hockey, just put it on net. Maybe something good will happen.
With 5 seconds left, that's literally all you're trying to do. And just gave it all he had, and it was enough.
And it went in. But you know what? I'm trying to look it up right now, how many shots they took that game. Because they were all over St. Louis. So Husso made 39 shots against.
Yeah.
They threw at him. And he didn't let goals in until like the third period. Well, yeah. The third period is what crushed him. And the 2 goals in the third period, I thought were kind of weak.
Well, the Helm one, the winner was weak, right? Definitely a goal that he should have had. So, but thankfully he did not.
Well, those are the kinds of goals that are going to happen when you take 40 shots on a goalie in a night. Just in Husso's case, it didn't happen till the end of the game, but it was going to happen.
Yeah, and I mean, clearly, I'm happy with it. But that's what we saw it from the Blues all series. They were not the better team. They definitely had the better goaltending in that series, and yeah. I mean, that's what we kind of. And as much as Binnington got hurt and was out and missed a bunch of time, Husso was good. He was good enough, and the Blues did a pretty good job at keeping like the Avs from having high danger chances. I don't have the actual numbers of how many. I do have the numbers of how many high danger chances they had. So in Game 5, the Avs had 15 high danger versus 5 for the Blues. So I say that, and clearly that game, that was not the case. I'd have to look up the rest of them, but I mean, it felt like, maybe I'm wrong on this, but it felt like the Blues had way less, or way more chances than they did.
Yeah, it felt like they had their legs going a little faster, but I think like what that comes down to is just like the Avs are just that good. Like, being your best isn't good enough to beat the Colorado Avalanche right now. They had to be better than their best. And maybe their goalie was playing that way, but they're facing a not very hot Darcy Kemper in net. You got to be able to put some behind him.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, Darcy Kemper was very much not what the Avalanche needed in that.
Josh Manson, however, save of the year. Am I right?
Yeah, you are right.
Yeah. Thank you. It was amazing. That was very exciting. That's one of those plays where you're just like, you need to play the replay right now, because I need to know how that goalie ended up in the corner.
Why happened?
Is he not in his net?
Yeah. Yeah, that was, super exciting game series. Tightly played. I mean, the Blues, for their credit, did not roll over after what could have been a pretty easy one after the Kadri hat trick game. I don't think anyone would have blamed them going into Game 5. If they had it, right, down 3-0 and coming back, impressive.
Yeah, very much so. So the Avalanche move on to the Western Conference Final. You got your shirt on. I like it. I almost wore my Nordiques shirt today, but I didn't.
You got to save it for tomorrow. I've got a different shirt ready for tomorrow, so
I'll save it for tomorrow. So Western, for the first time since when? Like the early 2000s?
Yeah. Since Cup Run era.
So they're halfway through the playoffs right now, assuming they go all the way. So at this point, who on this team is your Conn Smythe favorite? Who's your MVP?
I do think that it comes down to three people. It's either MacKinnon, Kadri, or Makar. With what we saw in, recency bias is a real thing in Conn Smythe land. I think that MacKinnon would be it with what he was able to do. There wasn't really, again, 2 hat tricks from 2 of the guys that I listed. So that makes it easy to put them on the map. Makar had a good, but like underwhelming series against the Blues.
Totally agree.
It wasn't anything that like you get excited, but like Cale Makar is like the best defenseman in the league and is definitely going to steal the Norris from Yossi. But he was still good. And it's the way that the Blues played that series, right? Like they made sure that Makar was not as good as he needed to be. So
yeah, I thought he was solid, not flashy.
Agreed.
Whereas in the first series, he had the space and the freedom to be flashy. I like that you put Kadri on your list. I think that's interesting. He's not on mine yet, but I think he can play his way into it in these last 2 rounds.
Yeah, I think with the way that the lines are, with them more spread out and a little more even, I think it makes it more likely that he is. If you stack that top line and give MacKinnon the firepower that he can have, he doesn't need it, but that he can have on that line, I think we'll see MacKinnon easily be the winner of the Conn Smythe if Colorado takes the cup.
Yeah, agreed. My dark horse pick is Gabe Landeskog.
Is it that dark of a horse if it's the captain of the team?
I don't know. I think so, just because he's kind of just doing what's expected of him. Like again, solid, not flashy. He doesn't really stand out to me as the best player on the team in the playoffs.
That's fair. My dark horse pick, if I was giving them, if I had to pick a dark horse right now for what I've seen from these Avs so far in the playoffs, I would probably have to go. Shoot, I don't even know who I'd go with.
Darren Hell, game-winning goal, series-clinching goal, power forward.
That is a dark horse, that's for sure.
Power forward checker.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd maybe go Nikushkin. That's a dark horse.
Yeah, it's a good dark horse pick.
All right. That leads us then to Calgary and Edmonton. And I want to start with the Blake Coleman goal.
Okay.
Should it have been a goal? It was called off. For those that did not see, this is an audio podcast, so we can't play you the replay, but go and watch. Okay. If you didn't see it, Blake Coleman scored a goal, went in off of his skate, not disputed there, right? Went in off his skate, was called back for a kicked in goal.
So here's the thing. I know what the popular dialogue online on this has been. In my opinion, he kicked that puck. Like it was I'm watching this and I'm like, his body's going one way and his leg is going in the complete opposite direction because he's looking at the puck. He kicked the puck in. That is what I believe. Now, I think where it gets complicated and angering even for me, believing that they got the call right, is that it's not consistent. Again, we always come back to these refs and the Department of Player Safety with consistency. You look at other plays that were called back this year, and the kicking motions weren't nearly as distinct. And then there were plays that, counted when they shouldn't have.
Well, and it's a tough call to make that decision, right? It is happening so fast and it changes, right? If you watch it at full speed versus you slow it down, every motion looks way more deliberate when you're watching it at half speed, right? And I really appreciated, I don't know if you were able to watch it live or if you just saw the replay, but I really appreciated watching kind of the narrative change, as you mentioned, throughout the week. Whereas like at intermission, the panel's talking about it and you've got Elliot Friedman being like, I don't think Blake Coleman's athletic enough to be able to, while flying through the air, be able to do that. He's like, I get it. he is a professional athlete. He is good, but like, I don't think he can do that. And then after the game, I mean, Coleman, even to his defense, he was like, yeah, I tried to turn my skate to deflect it in, which he fully admitted that was his goal. And I think at that speed, it can easily turn from an adjustment of trying to tilt to a kick, and you turn it and you slow it down and replay it enough, it's going to look like it. But
I don't I'm watching it live and I'm watching the replays and I'm like, oh, that's a kick. They got it right. And then I started seeing all the floods of commentary online about how bad of a call that was. Like, the other thing is the puck was going in. Like, it was basically on the line when he made contact with it.
Yes, though that is the other side of it.
So I don't know. He should have just let it go. Just don't touch it.
Just wanted to pad his own stats. I think I agree with you. It was one thing that really made me pay attention was the fact that they did mention that, because it's not just the refs on the ice making that call, right? Like, it's every official is involved in that. Yeah. And the fact that they said that it was a unanimous decision, that it was a kicked in goal.
Yeah. Yeah, because he kicked it. I don't know. I find that hard to deny. Like, the video evidence is there. He kicked it. Like, he didn't swing his leg back and forward like you would kick a soccer ball, but he very deliberately moved his foot in the direction of the puck to put it into the net, which is a
kick. And sorry, go ahead.
That was all. That's all I was going to say is that is the definition of a kick. So I don't know. I kind of think they got it right.
Yeah. And one thing I think we need to remember here is like, in this situation, nothing bad happened about it. But we need sometimes to remember that hockey is a game played with knives on your feet, and kicking should be something that's not allowed.
Yeah. Yeah. I totally agree. Right, so now the other angle too is, of course, this is going to anger a lot of people because it's such a high stakes moment in such a high stakes game.
Well, and you don't live in Calgary, but the Martin Jelena not a goal against the Tampa Bay Lightning is still something that people complain about to this day in Calgary. And so now I hope that this replaces it. And we now have this being, I can't handle both of these goals. That every time something happens against the Flames, so, the NHL's against us. We should have won. I mean, in both of those situations, right? Flames fans will say we should have won the series because that goal was called back. Well, you wouldn't have won the series. Let's be real.
I think they were in too deep a hole. And you know what? Like, their coach Sutter didn't outright say it, but they did not play a great game in that final game. So if that's the goal that you're pinning all of your hopes on, like, you guys, if you want to win that game, you should have been up by 2 at that point in the game. But they were just not, they were a step behind the puck. They were 2 steps behind the Oilers the entire time.
Yeah. Speaking of too deep a hole, it is a 2-0 hole for the Hurricanes in this game.
I saw that. I know.
We'll get to that shortly. But it was possibly, and I went back and looked through different series for a higher seed, for the division winner, the higher seed in a second round playoff matchup. It is one of the worst performances I have seen what the Flames showed up with in the second round. Outside of even in game 1, right? Like, you can say, well, they won game 1. They scored 9 goals in game 1. They also gave up 6. Like, there was not a well-played game. Neither team played well in game 1. And the Flames didn't play well in any of the other games in that series.
Well, I mean, the Oilers scored at least 4 goals in every single game. Like, they scored 5 goals in 3 of their wins, 4 goals once, and then 6 goals in their loss.
Which is unreal performance.
And as we sit here talking about this, I can't help but think, is this the Flames team we expected to see in the regular season?
No, actually, I don't think so. I think because what was the biggest issue with this team right now? Yeah, the offense wasn't as good as it needed to, but there was not a single game that Jacob Markstrom even attempted to keep them in. And that wasn't what we expected the Flames to be. I don't think the offensive firepower that we saw from them this year, I didn't expect, but I did at least expect competent goaltending.
Yeah, and you're right. They needed him to be better. And it's not like it was McDavid and Draisaitl putting up all these goals against him either.
No.
Right? Like Zach, how many goals does Zach Hyman have in these playoffs?
8.
8 goals.
Yeah, he had 6 goals in that series. 5 from Evander Kane. Evan Bouchard had 3 goals that series.
Yeah. Yeah.
Leon injured Draisaitl, 15 assists in 5 games.
That is wild. Like, is that your Conn Smythe favorite for this team?
No, it's Connor McDavid.
It's got to be McDavid, right? Like,
that's not close.
It's just crazy that Draisaitl, he's put up the same amount of production points. Actually, their stat line is exactly the same. 7 goals, 19 assists, 26 points.
Draisaitl and McDavid?
Yeah.
7 goals, 19 assists.
I did the math. The two of them together have a quarter of the Oilers' goals in the playoffs. You know who has a whole other quarter? Evander Kane.
And Zach Hyman's got probably another quarter.
Between Zach Hyman, Nugent Hopkins, and Bouchard, pretty much.
That's impressive. I mean, so you've got, that happening. Let's turn our focus to the second round or the third round matchup, right? Western Conference Finals, Oilers, Avs, MacKinnon versus McDavid. Did you see McKinnon's comments on that today? He was asked.
I just saw it before we started recording. Go ahead. It's a great comment.
And so to paraphrase, he was asked, should we care? And he was like, look, the only thing that I care about with the me versus McDavid matchup is that if more people watch and it makes escrow go down, I could care less about who I matched up against. I really appreciated that answer.
It's good, but it's also just further proof that these guys don't think about this game as an individual effort, right? Like, it's all about the team. Yeah, they got to prep for McDavid, but they don't just have to prep for McDavid. They have to shut the entire Oilers team down.
But they kind of just have to shut down McDavid.
Who are they going to put on McDavid? Darren Helm's too old. He can't do it anymore.
I assume that they would have the Kadri line against him.
I think so.
And then get McDavid against Draisaitl or against Nugent Hopkins for that second line.
Yeah. That's got to be the matchup Colorado wants.
Which is probably also the matchup the Oilers want, right? I would probably rather have Nugent Hopkins against him than the McDavid Draisaitl line.
Than the MacKinnon line, you mean?
Well, for the Oilers, I'd probably rather have Nuge on MacKinnon than I would McDavid. Yeah. Which, I mean, if both teams want that, then it really takes away the home ice advantage that Colorado has, right? In that way.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the other home ice advantage they have is the elevation.
Yeah, I don't know what Edmonton's elevation is, but compared to
Colorado,
cities,
it's low.
Definitely compared to that, but I mean, it's not like you're playing against Vancouver or Arizona, right?
Yeah.
I mean, both of those teams would have had to make the playoffs for that to be an issue.
I saw they flew over a couple days early just to get, ready, used to the elevation.
So Edmonton is 645 meters, and you're all welcome for that unit. 645 versus 1649, so a kilometer higher in Denver. That's high.
High.
So outside of MacKinnon versus MacKinnon, what are you looking at in this series?
The goalies, Mike Smith versus Darcy Kemper. Both of these guys are never in their nets.
And Darcy Kemper is much more. There's that. I mean, there's one very noticeable moment when he wasn't.
I think Mike Smith is going to be picked apart by this Avalanche team.
It's going to be interesting. One thing that I mentioned Binnington was doing it a lot, and it will be interesting to see how the Avalanche make the adjustment, because Binnington definitely came out a lot and played the puck a ton behind the net, which took away a lot of the dump in ability of the Avalanche. And it'll be curious to see how much that becomes a play with Mike Smith in net, who will play every puck imaginable.
Yeah, I think the Avalanche will just carry it in, though. Don't you? Yeah. Whose defense do you think is better, Edmonton or St. Louis?
St. Louis.
I think so too. So I think Colorado will have a bit of an easier time through the neutral zone.
Mm-hmm.
I think. I don't know. It's I think so many things about these playoffs, and then the opposite things happen.
Right. Very much so. But this could be Edmonton scored a lot of goals. Colorado scores a lot of goals. And neither Darcy Kemper has not stolen a single game yet this playoffs.
No,
and it's not like he's due. Like he's not that goalie. He is a good goalie. He's enough to keep you in a game, but he's not enough to steal you games. And Mike Smith might steal you a game. He might give up 9. There's literally no way to know what's going to happen. And
there's no in between either.
No, he either he's hot or cold. So I'd not be surprised if Koskinen's the one in net by the time this series is done.
Yeah, that it wouldn't be surprising to me. So we've got Smith versus Kemper. We've got McDavid versus MacKinnon. We've got, who do they have on their second lines? Nugent Hopkins versus Kadri.
Got Darnell versus Makar.
And that to me is where it starts to break down. That's where I see Colorado running away with this when you put the teams head to head.
When you look at all of a sudden you got, Colorado's defense is strong. Bowen Byram stepped in and done a very good job replacing
Looking great. Yeah, he's looking great.
Yeah, I think that's it will be. I think for all of the teams in every matchup the rest of the way, if Colorado makes it to the Cup final, even against Tampa. Victor Hedman, great player, but top to bottom, Colorado's defense changes the game for how teams have to defend against them.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you got Makar, who can play that offensive role in the O zone. So you never gave me a dark horse for Edmonton's Conn Smythe.
Dark horse, I would go Mike Smith.
It's a good dark horse. I go Leon Draisaitl. That's how sure I am of McDavid.
Actually, I did. I was on a podcast this week, and they asked me for my dark horse or my thoughts on if it's not McDavid, who is it? And I told them Evander Kane was the one that I thought would be one because of the goal totals, right? And they love that, but
McDavid. So that one would be an interesting pick, Evander Kane, because this award's voted on by the media, and the media said a lot of things about him this year.
The media's also forgotten every single thing they've said about him this year, and has just fallen in love all over again.
It's true. They don't care. It's the playoffs, baby.
Allegations to the wind. Prediction for this series?
I want to say Colorado. I don't know the number of games. I could see it being 5. I could see it being 7.
Well, I'm going to go in the middle. I'm going to say Avs in 6.
All right. Well, then I'll say 5.
There it is. Avs in 5. All right. We are going to take a break. We'll check in here with this game that is either showing replays or is now 3-0. But we'll find out on the other side. Three, 2, 1.
Now over to the Eastern Conference for the series that everyone predicted Tampa Bay Lightning sweeping the Florida Panthers, winning 4 against them. Did you see that coming, Carl? I did not see that coming.
No, I thought Tampa would win, but not a sweep. I thought Florida would show up at least a little bit, but they rolled over. I mean, as much as I said that the Flames had the worst performance that I've seen in a second round, and I looked back at it, they did not even have the worst performance of a division winning team in the second round of the playoffs this year.
And it was the President's Trophy winning Florida Panthers.
That President's Trophy is a bit of
it's a curse.
A curse, yeah.
It's a curse. I wonder who the last team to win a President's Trophy and the Cup was. I want to say it was Tampa just recently. Could be wrong, though.
I'm sure we can find out.
They normally don't repeat. Yeah, Florida sucked, man. They just stunk. Like, they couldn't even score in their elimination game.
No. When you have to do the thing, they couldn't do it.
It's pretty disappointing for a team that I had going to the Stanley Cup Finals this year.
So here's the I went back.
You looked at it?
The last team to do it, the 2013 Chicago Blackhawks. But I'm going to put an asterisk on that because that was the lockout shortened season.
Oh.
So the last team to do it in a full season was the 2008 Detroit Red Wings.
There you go. I do not remember them winning the President's Trophy that year.
They did. And actually, the team who did it before that was the 2002 Detroit Red Wings.
That one I do remember. That team was just too good.
And before that was the Avs, literally the year before. So it was back-to-back years.
2001. Okay, so it's not as rare as we initially thought.
But since we've had before the salary cap, it happened a lot more. Now that there's a salary cap, it's a little less plausible.
Yeah.
Which is what makes sense, right? You got a little more parity.
Well, I mean, yes, but Florida, man, they had a good team this year. And they threw Giroux into the mix, and he was awesome through the first series, the first round. Tampa was just too much for them. Like, if they're going to want to win their Stanley Cup, they're going to have to figure out the Tampa Bay Lightning. I think Tampa's turning into their Boston Bruins. It's just a mountain they're never going to be able to climb without beating them.
See, I think for that entire division, clearly the Tampa Bay Lightning have become their Boston Bruins. You can't get out of that division until Tampa becomes worse. Because I don't even think, yes, Florida didn't play great, but Tampa just is on that next level with what they're doing right now, right? They got that swagger back. They're playing fantastic up and down the lineup. And whichever team wins this game tonight, game 7, Rangers, Hurricanes, I don't know what I can come up with that has me picking them.
Yeah. You can't pick one of these teams against the Lightning. They're just not good enough. Like, looking at both of these teams, and I know we're going to talk about the series in a second, but like, Carolina was taken to 7 against Boston. New York was taken to 7 against Pittsburgh. Now they've taken each other to 7. Tampa's going to have a field day against these guys. They're going to pick them apart. Like, if Carolina can't score against Shesterkin, good luck putting them past Vasilevsky.
I would give Shesterkin a lot of credit, though. He's had a Vezina winning year. So I think, longevity-wise, sure, but Shesterkin's impressed me even in the second round way more than Vasilevsky did, and he was shutting out the Panthers.
Shesterkin is for sure on his way towards stealing the series, but I guess their trajectory through the playoffs has been kind of similar, because I thought Vasilevsky was just kind of okay in the first round too, and then he went and nearly stole the series from the Panthers.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm not sure anyone that you could say stole the series against the Panthers.
No, yeah.
Everyone showed up and did their job, and Florida didn't.
Yeah, the Florida Panthers stole the series from the Florida Panthers.
interestingly, I mean, a lot of conversation now with Andrew Brunette being the interim coach there after Joel Quenneville was removed partway through the year for his issues. Do you think they should bring back Brunette with what we saw from him in the regular season, but then what we saw in the playoffs?
Yeah, I think so. Why not? Like, they've got a good group. They're going to be good again next year. You know, they responded well to him after Joel Quenneville. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Like, do you think they're broke? That's the question, I guess. Do you think it's broke?
No, I think that they could have played better. I think you should and can and will learn and get better from that, right? This is a team that hasn't really had those opportunities to make playoff runs and to do that. And it's a coach who hasn't either. And so both of them are needing to figure that out. I wouldn't sign him to a big long deal, but I would at least give him another year.
Yeah, totally. Like, we talked about this a couple of weeks ago with the Leafs. There is a track record of success for teams who know that they're good enough and they stick with what they have. They just got to stick with it, right? Like, we saw it with the Avalanche and the Red Wings in the late 90s, which, put a pin in that. We got to talk about that before the show's up.
Yep.
We saw it with the Washington Capitals. We saw it with the Tampa Bay Lightning. Like, you're gonna run into these challenges in your way to winning a Stanley Cup. Don't meddle too much with it, because you're gonna mess it up even more.
Yeah, I fully agree. Conn Smythe winner so far for Tampa for you?
Oh, that is a good question. I honestly probably Vasilevsky. I think.
Yeah, I agree.
No one else really stands out.
No, if I were to pick someone from that's not him, I would probably go Kucherov.
Yeah.
Would be the one that I'd be going with, but
yeah, I think so. There's plenty of time left for Corey Perry to play his way into the Conn Smythe conversation.
Corey Perry is the Dark Smith pick. Dark horse pick.
Man, like, legit though. He might be my dark horse pick. I'm watching these games and he stands out. And he's had some pretty timely goals. He gets special teams time. Like, they rely on him.
Yeah. Absolutely. I know it is a very legitimate dark horse pick. So there you go. Which brings us then to the game that is on. The game that is 2-0 with only a minute left in the first period. Rangers, Hurricanes. A series and a team in the Hurricanes that have still yet to lose at home and yet to win on the road.
Wait, have the Rangers won on the road?
Yes.
I gotta look that up. They have?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, but that's pretty bad for the Hurricanes. The weird thing is, like, they were not a bad road team in the regular season. Like,
no.
Like, what is going on?
Honestly, I at this point in time, you know that, like, it kind of just has become the decision, but also, like, how long of a sample size does it have to be until it becomes a thing? You've lost now 6 in a row on the road.
Yeah. I mean, I was looking up the Rangers thing. It looks like they've won one game on the road in these playoffs. So not far behind Carolina.
Well, and hey, all they have to win is one more game on the road this playoffs, and no one cares about that.
Yeah, totally. But with Carolina, like, it's become a narrative now, right? Like, now it's that monkey that's on your back. It's like the Panthers in the power play this year in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. That's the one thing now everyone's talking about. You're going to see that headline on every sports channel where the ticker's rolling with the news headlines. Yeah. Like, it's just now the pressure's on for them to win on the road.
For sure.
Which makes it that much harder.
Yeah. I mean, so you've got that part, right? And the pressure when facing a goalie as hot as him, because you can make all the plays that you want. You can play the way that you should, and it can still not matter. I feel like that pressure situation gets really amplified when you've got Shesterkin in the other net.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I think where I don't agree is that this team is playing the way that they should. Like, I don't think that they got beat by Shesterkin last game. I think they got beat by the New York Rangers team. And they did not play up to their potential. And they're not doing it now either, by the way. This game that I'm watching, like, they just seem to be not on the same page with each other on the ice. It's weird. It's like one guy, they'll move the puck and one guy will just be a split second behind. Like, they're just not on the same speed.
Yeah. Yeah. And I there's a lot of guys on this team that should be performing that are not, right? Number one guy I'm looking at is Andrei Svechnikov.
Yeah.
Like, he's getting shots, getting performance, but you look at what he has for numbers, and he's got one goal in this round.
That's because he's not getting to the middle of the ice. Him in particular, I've noticed, like, he's on the outside, shooting from the hash marks and from the blue line always, even on the power play. Like, he's just not going to the net.
And that's like a long term. That's a throwback Hurricanes, like pre-Brind'Amour Moore, right? That's what they were when they became the Corsi darlings, and it was because they were just taking shots
from the outside,
from wherever they could get them, right?
Yeah. And that's kind of how I felt the last game and this game watching them. They've kind of gone back to that.
Yeah, and it's something that, you know, when that becomes your default and that's what you go back to, it can be very difficult to get out of that situation.
But credit to the Rangers for keeping them to the outside. Like, they're playing them pretty hard, especially down low in front of their own net. They're not giving the Hurricanes any space to work with.
No, and they're not. I mean, the second goal of this game was a power play goal after some bad, like an egregious too many men call. And those are the kinds of things that in a game 7 you can't be doing, and is really showing, you know, that this team just isn't there. The Rangers are playing well, but it's gone to 7 games and you're really floundering.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, you mentioned the unsportsmanlike. There's been a lot of penalties from both teams, I think, in this series, but the Hurricanes in particular seem to be way less disciplined than they have been in the past. Like, they're taking some egregious calls. You have Anthony DeAngelo taking an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty, canceling out a power play they're about to have last game. Like, you can't be doing that halfway through the third period when you're down by 2.
Yeah, I think we all could expect Anthony DeAngelo to make a poor choice at some point in this playoffs.
Man, that guy, like, I'm sitting at home watching on TV, and even I'm like, shut up. Like, his mouth is always running.
That sounds about right. Yeah.
I can't even hear him, and I want him to stop.
So one of these teams is moving on to face Tampa. Is there one that, as Tampa, you're cheering for in this game, that you'd rather face one of these two?
Probably the Hurricanes. I think just from a goaltending perspective, right? You'd rather be shooting against Antti Ranta than Shesterkin.
Yeah.
Plus, you know, you've got the talent and the experience and the discipline to shut down their top 6.
And you know, you only have to win one game of 4 in Carolina, and then you've got it on lockdown because they can't win on the road.
Yeah, exactly. That's who I would want if I was Tampa.
I think so. And I mean, the Rangers are a very Tampa-ish team, right? They're playing a younger version of themselves to a degree.
That's interesting.
Do you agree?
I don't think you're wrong. Well, here's what I'll say. I think that the Rangers have the potential to be Tampa, but they have so much young talent on their team that it's hard to tell how these guys are going to pan out.
Oh, right. That's what I'm like, because you look at the original Lightning team, right? And Braden Point developed into what he is. He was not expected to be what he is. He really showed up and became that.
Yeah.
And Stamkos was a high level talent that became that. And so I think you've kind of got that mix of guys on this roster, right? Adam Fox was not highly drafted like Victor Hedman was. He came into his own and is now playing fantastic hockey. So
yeah,
I would definitely want the Rangers if I was Tampa, but that's why you play the games.
Yeah. Well, and you mentioned the young guys, like someone like Alexis Lafreniere, for all the grief he took in his rookie season about how highly touted he was and he wasn't showing it. Dude looks awesome in these playoffs.
Yeah, they're putting him in chances to succeed, which I like, right?
Totally.
Like he's not getting the top minutes because he's not performing there, but with what he's been doing, he's been getting it done.
Yeah. Yeah. He's looked really good. And the other one, this is a guy I didn't know much about, but they keep saying his name on TV, is Andrew Kopp. He's all over the ice.
Yeah, a great pickup. Probably, I mean, for trade deadlines, you look around the teams that were there, he's the only guy, especially, no, not even from Carolina. He's the only trade deadline pickup that's been doing it.
Yeah. Yeah, totally agree. So I don't know who, I guess it's not going to matter by the time people are listening to this, but who do you think is going to win this game?
I haven't seen anything from Carolina that's made me think that they can pull this off.
Yeah, I feel like New York too. The only thing that's in the back of my head here is that Pittsburgh series. The amount of clustered goals that were scored in like 2-minute time frames, I could see it happening.
It felt like in this game tonight, and I know that we've been recording a podcast, so I haven't been watching, but from what I've seen, it felt like that power play that Carolina had right after the Rangers scored, that was their chance. Yeah. They didn't get that, and the Rangers were like, all right, we got this on lockdown.
Yeah, it's similar to the last game. Every save Shesterkin makes, it feels like their soul's being sucked out a little more.
You can hear it. You can literally hear the soul sucking happening.
Yeah, it's you can hear it. It's Tony D'Angelo's voice screaming to the rafters.
That's that sound that you keep hearing.
Not even to the rafters, screaming at the coach on the other bench.
It's like it's that machine from Princess Bride that he's hooked up to.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. You mentioned something that we need to put a pin in for later.
Yeah. A new movie trailer dropped this week. Documentary, ESPN E60. I don't know. What is E60? This is the first time I've ever heard of it. Is it like 30?
It's 30 for 30.
30 for 30. They just rebranded.
Yeah.
On a full 2 hours on the Red Wings Avalanche rivalry of the late 90s. And they got all the key players back. Like they got everyone, which makes me very excited. They got Scotty Bowman. They got Mark Crawford. They got Steve Yzerman. They got Joe Sakic. They got Patrick Waugh. They got Mike Vernon. They got Chris Draper and Darren McCarty. They got Adam Foote. And they got Vladimir Konstantinov, which really was a chef's kiss of the whole trailer.
It was nice.
So if you have not seen the trailer yet, go watch it. Because I got goosebumps watching it. It was just so well made with the music and the anticipation and the anger. Like it was palpable even all these years later with some of these guys.
Yeah, I think for Sakic and Yzerman, you can kind of tell when you see them around each other. Like they've kind of moved on, right? They're in different stages of their careers, but like Mike Ricci, Chris, like that's the peak of their careers, was being in those games in those series. And it's going to be for sure. I already said, I was like, we might have to unretire for an episode when that thing comes out.
We might still be on the air when it comes out.
Did they say in it when it comes out?
They didn't. And I've been scouring the internet trying to find, and the closest I can find is next month.
Oh, so we might still be on.
We're going to have to figure out something to do for that.
Yeah, it's going to be good. My biggest concern is that we're not going to be able to watch it in Canada. That's the real show.
Yeah, I know. I don't know how we're going to find it.
They should put it on Disney Plus. Hey, ESPN, I know you're listening. Disney owns you. Put that documentary on Disney Plus so we can watch it.
Yeah, that's actually a great idea.
Yeah. That's why I said it.
Once again, Carl, we're out here changing the game.
Doing what everyone wants for us. All right. That's it. That's the show. We will be back next week looking at the conference finals. We'll be halfway through them next week. We will know who wins this Carolina Hurricanes New York Rangers game by next week. Could you imagine if we didn't, though, if it was still going?
Oh my God. I always wonder, like, there's got to be some breaking point for the league to step in and be like, okay, look, just put a pause in it and we can pick it up tomorrow.
I don't think there would be.
Like 9 periods?
Because the longest has it been in the 8th, right? Like 5 overtimes.
Has it gone? Oh yeah, it has gone 5 overtimes.
Because what was that Tampa Columbus one from 2 years ago?
Which luckily was
5.
an afternoon game.
Yeah.
And that was one of the longer ones.
Longest game in NHL history was the Detroit Red Wings and Montreal Maroons in 1936.
Okay. No, that's not what we're talking about here.
That was the longest one. It was 116 minutes and 30 seconds, which doesn't seem that long. That's not the longest. What is going on here? NHL.com. Maybe that's how much overtime there was. No, that doesn't even make sense. I'm confused.
Goalies could barely skate back then. Like, there's no way they went that long without a goal.
Oh, that's just the list of games that went past 2 overtimes. Okay. What do we got here? What's the longest game ever? Why can't you just give me a list?
That Tampa one's got to be up there.
Yeah.
Anyways, like, imagine if that was a 7 p.m. start.
Or an 8, right?
Yeah.
Like a Western Conference first round game.
Yeah. Like, do you think 8 a.m. the next day is the breaking point where they're like, just pause it, we'll pick it up in 6 hours?
So that game was the second longest game ever, that Columbus Tampa game.
Okay.
That one had, I believe, 150 minutes of overtime. Longest, which is the game I was thinking of, that Flyers Penguins game from 2000. Where I remember, like, that was the first time that I think Keith Primo ordered pizza halfway through overtime.
Yeah.
That one was a good one. So that was the longest game ever.
Those Pittsburgh-Philadelphia games were good. That was a good rivalry.
It was.
Just still never been anything like that Detroit-Colorado one, though. No. Oh, boy, I'm excited for that.
It's going to be good. Well, that game was in the middle of that rivalry, so
yeah,
kind of got overshadowed. So that's going to happen. We are still doing the high sticking game where you head over to our Twitter at Fourth Line Podcast. I was out of town this weekend, so a little backlogged on the points, so I don't have a end of round 2 result, but we're going to be doing it. I assume there'll be a game every day from here on out. So that's going to be great. So we got that. I had a conversation with my wife on the weekend. How much would you spend to watch your team play in the conference finals?
Oh man, this is a conversation I frequently have with my wife because prices in Toronto are insane. So anytime there's a game 7, I'm like, what would you actually pay to go?
Yeah.
Honestly, like for my team, game 7 conference finals, I'd probably spend like no more than $1,000.
What about game 3, your team?
I don't know, a couple $100.
The cheapest ticket to get in the door to see a game in Edmonton is $600 when I was looking on the weekend.
That's too much.
It is too much.
For game 3, it's too much.
And I want to give full credit. My wife is okay with me paying it.
You should go, man.
No, do you realize how much I would hate myself if I spent $600 to watch my team lose? That's where I'm at as a sports fan. I would hate driving 3 hours down the highway to watch my team lose and pay $10 a minute to watch my team play terribly. It's too much.
What is the last possible game they could play in Edmonton? Game 6?
Game 6.
Would you pay $600 to go to Game 6
So
if Colorado's up for 2?
I actually will be away
3-2?
on a work trip on the day Game 6 would be. So that's not even possible.
But would you? $600?
No. Especially if it's an Avalanche. Like if the Oilers are up 3-2 after Game 5, there's not a chance that I would pay that much money to see my team get eliminated from the playoffs.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree with that. I was telling my wife, if the Leafs ever go to the Stanley Cup Finals, it's Game 7, she should go for up to $1,000. Just one of us, though. I'm not doubling up on at that price.
That was the other thing. It was, you can spend $600, but I'm not going with you.
That's fair. That's fair.
And that's the other thing. I would have to find someone else who would want to, because I'm definitely not going into enemy territory alone in the playoffs for 600. So,
but if it ends up being Colorado, Tampa, it'd probably be pretty cheap for you just to fly down to Tampa and go to a game.
Yeah, I assume both of those would probably be pretty reasonable.
Yeah.
I think with enough people that we've met, I could wrangle some folks up for either of those. I've actually never been to a game in Denver. That would be a time to go.
Denver's great. I've never been to a hockey game there, though.
No, me either.
Did I ever tell you? Oh, man, we're probably running late on time, but I got to tell you the time I was in Denver and we had a tour booked of the Pepsi Center. Like it was just like a weekend mid-afternoon thing. And, they take you around and show you the locker rooms and do the whole tour. We bought a Groupon for it. And we show up at, I think it was still called the Pepsi Center at the time. Don't know what it's called now.
Ball Arena. It's called Ball Arena.
Oh, yeah. I did know that because it makes me giggle. So we show up at the Pepsi Center only to find out they're not doing tours that day because Coldplay was in town. And I will never forgive Coldplay for making me waste money on a Groupon that I couldn't use.
That's disappointing.
Yep.
Did you at least go see Coldplay?
No.
That's a fun concert, though. You should. Yeah, if you haven't, you should.
I haven't. I don't think I've ever seen Coldplay live. Definitely have not.
I think every time they've come through Calgary, now they just go to Edmonton because they got the fancy new arena.
Of course.
They got the winning hockey team. They've got the fancy new arena. Everything good happens in Edmonton. So the high sticking. You go to our Twitter at Fourth Line Podcast with the number 4. Tell us who's going to win the game and what the score is going to be for that game. I will not be behind the 8 ball and out of town, except for next week, during Game 6. So those points will come in. You'll get the points. The winner gets a jersey. I do know the NHL is a little backlogged, like everything else in the world right now, in getting out shipments. So on their behalf, I'm sorry. But just be better, NHL. Just fix it.
Don't apologize for them.
No, I apologize that people have to wait, but it's their own. It's NHL's fault.
Yeah,
I blame Gary Bettman.
Me too.
If he hadn't spent so much time on that kitchen table, they maybe could have had a little bit of.
He's just got like piles of jerseys on his table.
Yeah, he's actually the one.
Through them.
He's the one stitching on the numbers and the letter plates. It takes a while.
He's stitching on the numbers and then packing them in the boxes to ship out to people.
Yeah, steals it with a kiss and sends it on its way.
Ew.
So there he is. You could be the proud winner of one. And what we actually do is you don't get to pick the name. We put the nameplate as high sticking, and the number is the amount of points that you got in the round. Could you imagine?
Is that true?
No, that would be so disappointing, though, wouldn't it?
I think that would be great.
You finally get your jersey. It's a random size. It's a jersey that no one would care about in the future.
Yeah, it'd be fun for the first day. And then in like 10 years, someone's like, what the heck does this mean? And you're like, I don't even remember.
I got it from this podcast that stopped existing a month after they sent me this jersey. So it's not even good advertising for them. I don't know what they were doing. Anyways, do that. You can go to the fourthlinepodcast.com, check out more about the show, subscribe so that you do not miss a single episode of this show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, wherever you listen to your show, wherever you are right now, unless you just found us on Full Press Radio, which is great. But subscribe so you get more of us. We're here for you. Let's enjoy the third round.
It's time for us to wrap up another fourth line show. I know what you're thinking. You don't want us to go. Third round playoffs. Here we go. And hopefully the Rangers can shut up D'Angelo.